Hey guys, it's Tom from HID Projectors, and today we're going to show you how to fix your 957 headlight. Here's a typical headlight we have here. The lenses are absolutely shot, lots of scratches and yellowing. I'm sure seeing out of this is going to be really bad, so we'll show you guys what this looks like from a lux standpoint. But I want to show you something really quickly. We take a look in the back here, and you remove the inspection covers. This way you can get a good idea of what your wiring looks like. And if you press down on these little tabs here, they'll come off. It's a lot easier to do with two hands, but you can wiggle it off. You can get in here and you can start to look. And if you see any cracking in the wiring, that's a sign that your wiring harness needs to be replaced. I'll show you guys how to do that as well. We're going to start by doing some output measurements on this, and then I will show you guys how we take off the lens, how we remove the shrouds, how we remove the high beam section, how we remove the projector, and how we replace everything, including the wiring harness. So stay tuned. Okay, we're back, and we're about 20 feet away from our aiming wall here. And here's a look at what the headlight looks when it's on. You can see how bad that looks. I'll show you guys what the lux here is, and I'm going to walk over. It's barely registering. You can see here on the wall where the light is showing, and I've got our lux meter here. Currently reading 23 on, this is just ambient light, 20, we'll call that 23, 25. I come down into where the hot spot is, if I can find it. I see 40, 41. Let's try to move around. Okay, let's call it 41. So remember that number. So when we swap in and upgrade, we're going to work off of 41 as the highest number. I mean, it's really not 41. It's going all over the place. But we'll give it 41. Let's see what we can do for an improvement. All right, guys, we're back, ready to bake these headlights. The first thing we're going to do is remove the rain guard over here. And these are going to go in the oven at 260 for about 30 minutes. And you'll see there are a number of these metal staples. They'll have to come out, and then we will be able to remove the lens from here. So all I've done is remove the inspection covers from the back, and we're going to peel this off, and then into the oven it goes. So stay tuned for that, and I'll show you guys step by step how that happens. This guy just pulls off. So it's very self-explanatory. You'll notice these are kind of held in with like almost melted metal. So if you just run your finger over it, they'll pop off and they'll come off easy. It is always advisable to make sure this is very clean when you're working on this stuff. So wash everything before you start messing with everything. Otherwise you'll be dealing with dirt. So stay tuned for the next step. Into the oven she goes. All right, it's been 30 minutes. We've just taken this out. We're in the oven at 260. You may want to use gloves if you have little baby hands. Next thing we're going to do is take our small flathead screwdriver and just pull off all of these staples. There's one here. You don't need to keep these. We're going to replace these with some screws. So just kind of work your screwdriver in there and it will easily come up. There's some on the bottom as well. Flip it over. You'll see one here. And you'll see one down here. Okay, so those are all gone. Next thing we're going to do is come back over this way. And we're going to start to remove some of the screws. So on the back here, we do have to take this one off. This is the T25. These can stay on right now because they hold the bezel into the lens. So let's take care of that next. All right, so we're just going to take this screw off real quick. Very easy to do. Set this aside. I like to put all my parts into a nice bin so we keep everything nice and tidy. And now we're ready to remove the lens from the housing. So to do this, I like to start with just a simple flathead screwdriver, and I'll try to break the seal along the edge. So I'm just kind of easily working this back and forth. The seal is not butyl. It's more of a permanent sealant from Porsche. And I find that if you kind of run this through and break the seal a little bit at a time, it comes off a lot easier than if you just go in there and you try to He-man it. This thing has been sitting in the oven for 20 minutes, and we are stronger than the plastic. So I'm going to take some time, run all the way around this edge. I'll do this off camera, and then I'll come back and show you guys how we separate. All right, so we've just kind of loosened everything up, and it's not hard to do, guys. I'm just going in here and just kind of doing this, right? Not putting a lot of pressure on it. Just breaking it. You can see there's the lens right there. So we're just lifting and breaking that seal. Now I'll try to find a good spot like this. I'll come in, put my screwdriver on the inside of that lens, and I'll very gently pry. Now you see the lens wants to separate. This is about as easy as it gets. I like to grab these pliers, these are separating pliers, and a little bit of pressure, not a lot, and I'll just start in one spot and I'll start to work my way around, and I'll stand it up. I'll come over here, I'll get this edge in the corner, and I'm not forcing it, I'm just kind of letting the headlight come apart. Because if you force things, especially if you want to reuse your lenses, you don't need to be too aggressive here. And then once you get most of it, the rest of it will usually just come off with a little bit of love from your hands. Wear gloves here again if you did not eat your Wheaties this morning. Okay, there is the lens separated. Now I mentioned earlier, if you are taking the bezel out, which we will do here in a moment, we're going to take these two screws out and this will lift right out. So let's set this side aside and we'll take off the rest of this lens. All right, in order to take these off, you need a T10. You can very easily take them up, set these aside. They come with these little plastic washers as well, so make sure you keep that. And now that we've done that, we can just carefully lift this right out. You will see sometimes these are plastic welded on here. You may have to take your screwdriver and just kind of work it back and forth until you break that little tab off. And there's one here as well. There, you hear it click and it came off, and now I should be able to just lift this guy right out. Nice and easy. There it goes. Okay, so next, you set this aside. If you're keeping this silver, this lens is trash. So this guy's gonna go. And if you were to paint now, this is where you would prep and paint this. A lot of guys like to do this black, super popular option. We would bodywork this, strip it, prime it, paint it any color you'd want, and then it's ready to go in the same way it just came out. So these two little holes here will line up on your new lens, and then you'll screw in the two screws at the bottom, and then your lens is ready to reinstall. All right, so now we'll switch gears and go back to the housing. All right, time to glove up. And this time, we're gonna take off the shroud and show you guys how to release this high beam area. So the shroud, it's coming off real easy. So you put your thumbs here on the projector, your hands behind the shrouds, and you just give it a pull. So it's put on, it's on with friction fit here, and these tabs will click in to these sections of the headlight. So there is a top and a bottom. The bottom always has this tab, so it's easy for you to figure this out. Set this aside somewhere safe. Again, if you're gonna paint that, go ahead and do your paint work. To remove this section here, we're going to turn around and remove the bulbs first. So we've got our cornering light, which just comes off with a twist. This is the H11 light. It can be a little tough to get in there and twist this guy. There it goes. So that comes off with a twist. And then we're going to come in here for the high beam, and that's just an easy twist. Okay, you'll see that that mounts with those two little screws. So now that these are out of the way, we have to push these mounting points out. Now I like to use a little bit of brute force to do this. We are not trying to break anything, guys, but since it's hot from being in the oven, the best thing I like to do is to take a little screwdriver and a little pop like that of the hand, and it should pop right out. It should pop right out. Let's try again on the top. 1 and 2. Okay, now that those are loose, you'll see the two bottom ones are out, and they fit with the ball and socket. We'll zoom in here in a minute, but I want to take this last one out. I always just grab a little screwdriver, just real easy, comes right out. So you don't need a lot of force. I know it looked like I was hitting that hard. What I was just trying to do was jar it loose. These sockets here and these balls here allow this to pivot up and down. So all I was doing was separating the two. And when they come out, again, now you can prep and paint this if you're going to do that. Again, set that aside somewhere safe. Now, we have a projector here. We'll talk about how we remove the projector, how we replace that in the next video. All right, guys, for this video, we're over at the bench now, and we have the T25 Torx bit here. We're going to remove 8 screws. So we're taking the projector out. So we've got 4 on the housing back here that holds the projector in for the AFS system, and then 4 more that holds the projector to the bracket. It doesn't matter which 8 you take out in which order. Just take them all out. Make sure you're setting them aside. And you'll see We'll do a couple things here. We're just getting all these screws out first. Sometimes Porsche leaves one of these out, believe it or not. In this case, all 4 are in. So now you see the projector start to wiggle around. And then we're going to take the screws out of the AFS holder. This is what allows your headlights to twist or turn while you're making a turn, and pivot. So this system will be retained as well. And on the back of this is where all of your headlight adjustment motors are. And we're not going to change anything. All the mounting points are going to remain exactly the same. Grab that guy. And we've got one more right here. Okay, now set those 8 screws aside. Turn your headlight around. You have to take your bulb out. So the stock Osram bulbs comes out again with a half twist, just like that. It'll come out, and then you can take it out here by just grabbing this and pulling out. Push in that little tab and pull straight out. Set that aside. Now you have to take out the high beam plug. It's right here. It's just a little guy. I usually get in there with my hand and my thumb, and I can just pull it straight out. Wiggle it up just like that. So you see if I zoom in, it's now out of its plug, and you have a little tab that it's underneath. So take your wires and slide it out from that tab. And once you've done that, it's loose like this. We're ready to remove the projector. Switch back around. Now the projector comes out by pushing it in first, and then kind of retaining this housing, the AFS housing in the back. See, I'm hitting it with my thumb. I'm holding that back. I'm going to take this projector and twist it sideways and wiggle it out, just like that. Now, this is the old projector. Let's take a look at it. Fresnel lens. Sometimes you'll see, if you look in here, that the coating on the bowls gets dull over time. And you saw how bad the readings were on that lux output. What we're going to do now is replace this projector with one that has the exact same output, but you'll see the lens is different. It doesn't have this cloudiness to it. We're also going to give you a brand new bulb. So the combination of these two is going to completely transform the way that you can see in your Cayenne. Now we're going to keep the stock ballast here, so all of that stuff is going to be perfect and is going to operate with no errors. So that's an important distinction. We're also not going to make any changes to the way this was mounted. So you'll see that in the next video. Okay, so here we are with a stripped down housing. Now, before we go any further, this is where we would clean the housing. You can remove this dust cap here and clean out this filter element, which is a really good idea, keeping things clean. It's got a lot of dust in here over the years. You can see it's like brown on that side. You can even pull this element right out, or you can go to the sink and rinse it. Just make sure it's dry before you reinsert it. Really easy to do. You can also remove all of the old sealant that's on this housing. That is a pain to do. It takes forever, but it is very important that you do that in order to get a perfect seal when you reinstall the lens. The next thing you're going to do, if you have really bad wiring, in this case this wiring is perfect, you would go in and replace all of this wiring. So often what you see is cracking and fraying along the wires, and one of the easy culprits, you look here, this is all frayed, and I have some examples we can show you guys that looks absolutely terrible, but these all look brand new. So this is what a brand new housing kind of looks like. You can see one little crack right here. If I zoom in, maybe you can see that. In this case, I would not touch this wiring, but we do have a wiring harness that goes all the way from here, including this plug, all the way back, and replaces all of the wiring all the way up to this section right here. You splice that in and you're good to go. But we've got new plugs for this, new plugs for the motor up here, and it's all brand new. So if you're not familiar with what Porsche does, they do have soy-based wiring, so sometimes the wiring can fail. This could be a newer unit, or perhaps it's already been replaced. In this case, it looks great, so we won't be going any further with the wiring, but we will show you guys how to reinstall the proper projector unit so you can turn this headlight into 2026 technology. Okay, we're back, and I want to show you guys the difference here. If you remember from the last section, this is the original projector. This is the new SR6 projector. Now from the side, they almost look identical. That's intended. From the front, you can see a big difference right away. Look how clear this lens is. So this is a different optical lens with a new design on the inside, a better, bigger bowl, believe it or not, with better output and an integrated cutoff shield. Everything's going to work the same electronically, but you're essentially supercharging the amount of output. So what we're going to do now is swap over this wire for your high beam, because we need this little plug. It's going to go in the same section here, and then we can reinstall this projector. Now in order to do this, it can be a little tricky. I like to take my thumb and just push down on this little lever while I kind of rock it back and forth and wiggle it out. Now it's been a long time since this thing's been in here, so don't be afraid that this feels a little stuck. Sometimes the pair of needle nose pliers helps, but if you really work at it, you'll get it out. It may take me a minute here. I'll do it right in real time. So I do have my needle nose pliers here. You're not gonna squeeze too hard because you are stronger than plastic, right? And again, just a little bit of love back and forth. There, see, that wasn't too bad. I didn't pull hard. I just wiggled and pushed up, and it kind of worked its way out. In the past, I used to He-Man these things off, and you'd break the plastic, and that leaves you in a bad spot. So now, what we're going to do is take this plug, and it's going to go in the same spot. You'll see there's a little leg on the side there that fits into that little notch. It lines up perfectly. Make sure your pins are lined up. So you do have 2 pins in there, and it's got to want to go into its home. And if it does, it'll slide right in. If it doesn't, it'll fight you like it's doing right now. And if that's the case, take it back out. Make sure these pins are lined up. So what I'm doing is I'm inspecting the 2 pins in the middle there, making sure they're lining up to these holes. They're just very small, and I'm not putting any pressure. I want it to want to go in. It does not want to go in. There it goes. So what's happening now is I'm trying to give it a little bit of love to slide in. There it goes. These are tight fits, guys. Take your time and don't get frustrated. So you'll notice these are the electric connectors on the end where the connection will go into the solenoid. So now what I like to do is run two jumper wires off of here and manually test the high beam to make sure that I made the connection right. If you don't do this, you run the risk of hooking everything up, and maybe inside here you didn't get it connected just right, and now you don't have high beam. So do this step, okay? All right, so I mentioned how to test this. I just have 2 small pieces of wire into this plug, and I have this powered up, and the second I touch this wire, you should hear the solenoid click. There it is. So I'm mimicking how that works, and if you watch the cutoff shield in here, you'll see it moving up and down. That's activating the high beam. So there, that step is passed. Now we can install the projector. So in order to do that, we're going to reverse our steps. So we're going to start sideways, push this guy back, and we kind of wiggle him in. I fit him in around this edge first, and then I see if he'll slide in nicely. Sometimes it takes me a minute to get this in, guys, and sometimes I get it on the first shot. Boy, the video is doing me good today. Now, the next thing is you want to make sure it sits into this cradle, right? There are some alignment tabs, and there's going to be some screws. So make sure it looks like it's fitting in perfectly now. I'm going to switch it back around and make sure that high beam wire came through so it doesn't get hung up. There it is. It looks great. So now I can come back and put all of my screws in. I don't think you guys need to watch me do this, but for the sake of the internet, maybe we can quickly go through this. Hopefully we time-lapsed all of this so you guys didn't have to watch me fight with all these screws. And the last one in. Now that all went back in to the exact same location that they started. So everything's aligned perfectly exactly where it was. What we've done so far is we've upgraded our projectors. Now, let's go back over here. And we're going to reattach our high beam plug. So if you recall, we just slide it into this little tab. Boom, boom. And then it will just fit into this plug perfectly. Sometimes you want the aid of a pair of needle nose if your fingers are like mine. And then we can just guide it in. And I'll just go into his home. It's a lot easier without a camera in my face. Just like that. Movie magic. I did not get it yet. Okay, let's try it this way. Sometimes I do this by feel and not by sight. So it's a little bit easier to get it lined up. There. Okay, so that's clicked back in. And now we're ready to reinstall our bulb. Let's do that in just a moment. Okay, old bulb versus new bulb. Here's the old bulb. Here's the new bulb. You'll see you get a new adapter with that as well. You'll take off this cover, orient them exactly the same. You see it has an opening here. We're going to squeeze that and separate the bracket, which will allow us to install the bulb. So we'll just snug on here like this. You'll see there's going to be a little tab right there for that little ear mark. Look at the top. Now, if you look here, they're exactly the same, right? Now to reinstall, we can install our wiring. If you recall, kind of was in here this way and lines up with the little tabs on the back and just gives it a twist. Now you may have to go in and twist that to make sure it's perfectly straight, but usually it lines up great with the bracket. So we are ready now to reinstall. If you've painted your shroud, you can reinstall this. Now, if you didn't do any paint work, you didn't have to take off this section. You can leave that totally installed, and you don't have to mess with any of that stuff. But if we're going to do paint work, we would do exactly that. So we would reinstall the high beam and cornering light area. We pop our shroud back on, and then once you've cleaned off all of your sealant, you can put your lens back on, and you're ready to go. So I'll show you guys what the output looks like here in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Now remember how we handled this the last time. We had a 41 on the lux reading. First of all, take a look at the output here. And we had a 23 ambient light, so let's make sure we still have that. Okay, 23 ambient light, that's still consistent, 23, 24. Now, we're going to come on here into the hotspot. We were at 41 before. 165, 177. Okay, 183, 200. All right, I think we've seen 219. I saw 219. So we went from 41 lux to more than 200 lux with this upgrade. Now, there's 280, there's 400. I mean, okay, I think you guys can see, and it's going to carry all the way down here, and it will taper off as you get wider, but your hotspot area is this middle area here, and you're seeing the numbers in real time. I'm just walking it down the wall. Okay, so we went from 41 and basically barely being able to see to a extremely bright hotspot and a wonderful width. And this doesn't do it justice when you're out at night. So going from 41 to, I think we saw 400, that's a 10x increase. And that's a real world increase. We're not changing the safety of this. We're actually increasing the safety. There's no light above the cutoff. So down here, let's go to the hotspot again. Let's find 200, right? And then I go right here. We're back to ambient, 20, right? That's ambient light. That's just the light that's in the room. So what that's saying is you're not going to blind oncoming traffic. You're going to have a crisp, clear cutoff. The high beam is still there. It's a wonderful upgrade. If you have a Cayenne and you're looking to see better and safer, it's a no-brainer. You can pick up a kit for just a couple $100, or you can send us the lights and we can replace the lenses, we can customize them, or we can just do the projector and the bulb upgrade for you. It's truly a phenomenal upgrade. Given the performance of your machine, running around with your Cayenne, you don't want to outrun the lights. And unfortunately, if you're still running on the stock setup with cloudy lenses, it's borderline dangerous. So give us a call, 716-662-3479, and let's get you results just like these. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, here's a little bonus content because I realized I didn't finish the actual build here because we're going to stop and use these for a customer build. But you would reinstall the lens the same way. Let's go through everything. So you have your shroud here. That's going to clip back on. I like to put a couple of dabs of urethane around these tabs. So not only does it clip back on, but it also is kind of chemically bonded as well. When you're putting this back on, you're going to press all these back in. They will click in. You'll have to give it a little bit of force. Click, click, and then the third one here, click. Make sure that sits on this little shelf up here and doesn't dangle down like that. It only goes one spot. And you can put your bulbs back in the same way. And the new lens the bezel would reinstall in the new lens. You can watch that, those two little screws with the white plastic washers. And once you've cleared out all of this area, you'll run either some retro rubber or some high strength butyl around here or some urethane, fill the channel, and then in goes your lens. And now you'll have to clamp that and allow it to sit. What we also like to do is take the old holes where those staples were. We drill a tiny little hole and we'll run a screw in here, here, and in the bottom here and here. That's going to give you a mechanical adhesion for the lens, and then when your sealant of choice dries, that'll give you chemical adhesion. So now you've got two. Clean up your breather cap, reinstall that, put your rear caps back on, and you're good to go. If you have any questions, give us a call, and thanks for watching.